My name is Amara, and if you are listening to this, it means you're ready to hear a story that's as old as time, yet as fresh as yesterday's heartbreak. It's a story of love, betrayal, resilience, and ultimately triumph. Let me tell you about the thorns that pricked my soul. I grew up in a home filled with so much love. It felt like sunshine on a rainy day. My parents, God bless their souls, taught me that family was everything. They showed us what it meant to cherish, to support, and to forgive. Our house was always buzzing with laughter. The aroma of my mother's delicious jollof rice and the sound of my father's booming voice telling stories that always ended with a moral lesson. We were not rich in naira, but we were overflowing with joy. So when I met Emeka, a man who seemed kind and gentle, I dreamt of replicating that same warmth, that same peace in my own home. I pictured a future where my children would grow up surrounded by love just like I did. Oh, how naive I was to say. Man proposes, God disposes. And truly, my plans were merely whispers in the wind compared to the storm that was brewing. Our wedding day was beautiful. My mother cried tears of joy. My father beamed with pride. And Emeka, my husband, looked at me like I was the most precious jewel. I remember thinking, this is it, Amara. Your happily ever after has begun. We moved into a modest apartment, and for the first few months, it was like a dream. We would laugh, talk for hours about our future, and plan our lives together. We even agreed after much discussion that we would wait for 2 years before having children. We wanted to enjoy each other's company, travel a bit, and build a solid foundation for our marriage before bringing little ones into the world. It was a mutual discussion, a promise we made to each other. My parents had instilled in me the importance of respecting elders, especially in-laws. So every month, without fail, after my salary landed into my account, I would send money and a generous parcel of foodstuff, bags of gari, rice, cartons of noodles, and vegetable oil to Emeka's parents in the village. I did it out of love, out of respect, and out of genuine desire to be a good daughter-in-law. I believed that by showing them kindness, I was building bridges, cementing my place in their family. But instead of appreciation, what I got was a constant barrage of complaints and demands. Amara, this money is too small, my mother-in-law would say over the phone, her voice sharper than a freshly sharpened knife. Do you think money grows on trees here? And this gari, is it enough for a whole family? We are not eating air, my dear. I would apologize, even when I knew I had done my best and promised to do better next time. It was like pouring water into a basket. No matter how much I gave, it was never enough. And even the grandchild pressure began. All the pressure. It started softly, like a gentle breeze. Then it became a hurricane. Amara, when are we going to carry our grandchild? She would ask, her voice laced with impatience. Are you waiting for your womb to dry up? A woman's glory is in her children, my dear. What are you waiting for? Time no dey. I would try to explain our agreements, that Emeka and I decided to wait. I would look at Emeka, hoping he would step in, hoping he would remind his mother of our joint decision. But he would just sit there, silent, his eyes fixed on some imaginary spot on the wall. Not a word, not a single defending word. It was as if his tongue had been tied with a rope. It hurt deeply. It was like a constant reminder that in his family's eyes, I was just a vessel for grandchildren, not a person with feelings, not a partner whose decisions mattered. Silence is gold in the sea, but sometimes silence is just plain cowardice. Then the unthinkable happened. Emeka lost his job. He came home one evening, his shoulders slumped, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by a dark cloud. I tried to comfort him, telling him everything will be all right, that we will get through it together. I was working after all, and my salary was decent. I believed in us, in our partnership. I thought this was a test, a chance for us to show how strong our bond was. For the first few days, I didn't mind being the sole provider. I gave him money for transport, money for food, for whatever he needed. I encouraged him to apply for jobs, to network, to keep his spirits up. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Emeka didn't seem to be in any hurry to find another job. He would wake up late, spend hours watching television, and then, almost like clockwork, he would ask, "Amara, do you have some money for me?" And like a fool, I would give him. Every single time, I told myself I was being a good wife, that I was building a solid foundation for our marriage, that I was showing him my unwavering support. I was pouring my livelihood into a relationship that was slowly but surely draining me dry. It was during this period, when our finances were already stretched thinner than a spider's web, that my mother-in-law decided to pay us a visit. A long visit, she announced, to see how my son is faring and to check on my grandchild, she said. I swallowed a lump in my throat. I knew what that meant. More pressure, more demands. My routine became a stressful circle of work, home, cook, clean, and endure. I would rush home from my demanding job, tired to the bone, only to find the house in disarray. My mother-in-law would be sitting on the sofa fanning herself with a newspaper, while Emeka was glued to the TV, watching football. I would head straight to the kitchen, prepare dinner for everyone, wash the dishes, and then when I thought I could finally rest, the snapping would begin. "Amara, this soup is too watery. Are you trying to starve my son? Amara, why is this floor not sparkling? Do you think I came here to do house chores for you? Amara, how many times will I tell you? A woman's worth is in her children. When will you give me a grandchild? Or are you barren? My son needs a child to carry on his name, not a wife that just eats food." Every little thing I did was scrutinized, criticized, and thrown back in my face. She called me names, accused me of being lazy, of being disrespectful, of being a witch who had tied her son's destiny. And through it all, Emeka, my husband, the one who promised to love and cherish me, would remain silent. He would just sit there, sometimes even nodding along with his mother, as if her words were gospel truth. It was as if I was a stranger, an intruder in my own home, and he was merely an observer. When a child is born, the mother is happy. But when a child is good, the whole village is happy. But in my case, the child was me, and the village, or at least my husband's family, was anything but happy. The pain became a constant companion, a heavy cloak I wore every day. I cried myself to sleep most nights, wondering where I had gone wrong. Was I not good enough? Was my love not strong enough? I felt like a donkey carrying a heavy load, and instead of help, all I got was more weight piled on. One evening, I came home from work, my body aching, my spirit weary. I pushed into the door, and there, sitting in our living room, was a young lady. My mother-in-law was beaming, her face filled with excitement and triumph. Emeka was looking down, avoiding my gaze. "Amara," my mother-in-law announced, her voice dripping with venom. "Since you cannot give my son a child, I have brought a woman who can. This is Chika. She will carry my grandchild. Now my son will finally have a heir." My world stopped. The air left my lungs. It was like 1,000 needles piercing my heart all at once. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My mind was reeling, trying to process the audacity, the cruelty, the sheer disrespect. I looked at Emeka, searching for any sign of remorse, any hint of protest, but his face was a blank canvas. He had allowed this. He had sanctioned the ultimate betrayal. That night, I didn't cry. The tears had dried up, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. My mind, usually a whirlwind of emotions, became remarkably clear. I spent the next few days going through the motions, but inside, a silent war was raging. I thought of revenge, of making them pay for every tear I had shed, every insult I had endured. I thought of exposing them, of shaming them. But then, a quiet voice inside of me whispered, "Amara, don't repay evil for evil. Let God be your judge." It was a hard pill to swallow, but it was the truth. My parents had taught me better than that. When you throw a stone in the market, you don't know whose head it will break. I didn't want to break my own peace by stooping to their level. One evening, I came back from work, and the house was quiet. My mother-in-law and Chika had gone to the market, and Emeka was out with his friends, probably spending the last of my money. This was my chance. I walked into our bedroom, pulled out a small bag, and carefully packed a few of my most essential belongings. My documents, some clothes, and the little cash I had saved away, hidden from Emeka's constant demands. I looked around the house I had poured my heart and soul into, the house that had become a cage of sorrow. There was no need to labor for ungrateful people. The toxicity became unbearable. My spirit was suffocating. I took one last look, a silent farewell to a dream that had turned into a nightmare, Then I walked out, closing the door behind me, not knowing where I was going, but knowing with every fiber of my being that I was walking towards my freedom. The moment I stepped out of that house, a strange sense of calm washed over me. It was like shedding a heavy, suffocating cloak. The air outside felt lighter, cleaner. Even though I had nowhere definite to go, I called my friend, my best friend Ngozi, who, bless her heart, didn't ask too many questions. She just told me to come straight to her place. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully, truly peacefully. The silence was deafening, but it was a welcome silence, free from the constant nagging and the heavy weight of disappointment. Back in the house I had just left, chaos soon took over. My departure was probably met with a mixture of shock and relief, especially from my mother-in-law. They probably thought, good riddance to bad rubbish. But they soon learned that when a good woman leaves the market becomes dull. For a few weeks, life for Emeka and his mother, along with Chika, was probably a rude awakening. I had been the one paying all the bills: electricity, water, gas, even the rent. I had been the silent engine keeping the house afloat. Now, with my income gone, the engine sputtered and died. First, the electricity was cut, plunging them into darkness. Then the water stopped running, making even simple tasks like bathing and cooking a monumental struggle. Finally, the gas ran out, and the aroma of my cooking was replaced by the acrid smell of charcoal, if they even bothered to cook. Chika, the new wife, who had been brought in like a prize cow, quickly realized that the grass wasn't greener on this side of the fence. She was probably expecting a life of ease, being served hand and foot, but instead, she found herself in a house without basic amenities, relying on a jobless man and his demanding mother. She had come to carry grandchildren, but she found herself carrying buckets of water and fanning charcoal fires. "I cannot suffer like this," I imagined her shouting, her voice probably echoing through the dark empty rooms. "I was having a good time in my father's house before you brought me here. Do you think I'm a slave? This is not what I signed up for." Her initial arrogance, fueled by my mother-in-law's praise, quickly turned into rudeness and outright rebellion. She became very rude and arrogant to both Emeka and his mother, refusing to do chores, complaining endlessly, and making their lives a living hell. She probably reminded them every day that she was a free woman, not a maid. One day, she simply packed her bags with less fanfare than my quiet exit and left. She said she couldn't endure the suffering any longer. When the soup is too hot, the spoon will break. And she broke. With Chika gone, it was just Emeka and his mother left in the house. Two hungry lions in an empty den. And like two hungry lions, they started devouring each other. Every day, their arguments would fill the air, louder and more bitter than the last. They argued about money, about food, about whose fault it was that their lives had turned upside down. My mother-in-law, who had once held her head high, now looked defeated. She finally started to see with her own eyes how much I had contributed, how much I had sacrificed. It is when a tree falls that you see the size of its roots. She finally saw my roots. One morning, after a particularly nasty fight with Emeka, my mother-in-law packed her small bag. She couldn't endure the suffering and the constant bickering anymore. She left, going back to her husband's house in the village, probably with her tail between her legs. The once proud woman who had come to carry grandchildren left with nothing but regret. Emeka was left alone in the house, a king without a kingdom, a general without an army. The reality of his situation finally hit him like a thunderbolt. He started looking for me, calling my phone, sending messages, begging me to come back. He probably realized that a bird in hand is worth two in the forest, and he had let his bird fly away. But I had changed my number, and my heart had grown a thick skin. There was no going back to that toxic environment. He intensified his job search, but nothing good was forthcoming. The universe, it seemed, was serving him a taste of his own medicine. He had been comfortable relying on me, taking my kindness for granted, and now he was facing the consequences. Then the landlord gave him a quit notice. The rent had expired, and there was no money to renew it. He had nowhere to go. Left with no other option, Emeka moved back to his parents' house in the village. The irony was not lost on me. The man who had allowed his mother to mock and insult me was now himself mocked and insulted every day by his own parents. They called him a failure, a good-for-nothing, a man who couldn't keep even his wife or his house. He who rides on the back of a tiger can never dismount. He was stuck in a circle of his own making. As for me, Amara, the woman who was once deemed barren and useless, my life took a different turn. With the help of my friend Ngozi and some other kind souls, I applied for permanent residency in Canada. It was a long and stressful process, but I persevered. One day, the mail finally came. I had been approved. It felt like a rebirth, a second chance at life. I packed my bags, this time with hope in my heart, and flew thousands of miles away from the pain and the past. Canada welcomed me with open arms. It wasn't easy at first, starting over in a new country, but I was determined. I found a well-paying job, built a new life for myself, and slowly, surely, the wounds began to heal. I learned that when there's life, there is hope. And I had life and so much hope. I still send money to my parents, but now it's out of pure joy and gratitude, not obligation or fear. I have learned that true love is about respect, partnership, and mutual support. I'm still single, but I hope to find love someday. A love that is pure, genuine, and free from the shadows of the past. My journey was bitter, but my triumph is sweet. And that, my friends, is my story. Thank you, my dear viewers, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. Kindly comment, share, and subscribe. Until I come your way again next time with another interesting story. Bye!